Hello, my name is Morgan Ivy, and today I'm going to be pretending to interview Dr. Albert Mitchelson, who's a physicist in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he conducted an experiment with Dr. Edward Morley that disproved a theory of ether, which was this imaginary substance that light propagated through. And this experiment disproved it. It's called the Michelson-Morley experiment. And so I'm going to be pretending to interview him. I'm going to be um, me when I have the hat on. When I take the hat off, I'm going to be Albert Mitchelson. So, all right, let's start. All right. Hello, Dr. Mitchelson. My name is Morgan Ivy, and I'm just going to here ask you a few questions, and if you don't mind answering. First question is, tell us your name and tell us about your project. And thanks for having me. My name is Dr. Albert Mitchelson. Um, we performed an experiment between April and July of 1887. This experiment measured the speed of light in perpendicular directions to test this debated theory of an ether wind. Uh, what were you and Dr. Edward trying to do? What are you trying to find out? We were trying to gain more knowledge about this ether wind. Um, We also wanted to find more accurate values for wavelength of light and the Fresnel drag coefficient. Ether was the running theory describing how light propagated through space-time. We were trying to see if it was stationary or if it moved, and really that and also if it existed or not. I had already previously performed an experiment in 1881, but the evidence showed that there was no ether wind. But Dr. Edward and I both thought that there needed to be more accurate results to fully conclude that there was no presence of an ether wind. Other experiments also were done, but didn't have this level of accuracy required to detect such small changes in speed. That this accuracy we used during the experiment. Thank you. Where did this project take place? Now, the university currently goes by the name of Case Western Revere University in Cleveland, Ohio. But in 1887, it was just Western Revere University, or WRU. We performed at the Albert Dormitory basement of WRU, sorry, which unfortunately was torn down in 1962. What other significant events were happening around the world at this time did your experiment? Let's see, they started building the Eiffel Tower earlier that year in France. Uh, they America made this new holiday called Groundhog's Day. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but they started. They reburied Abraham Lincoln with his wife. The New York Giants beat the Phillies 29-1. It was bad. There's a treaty signed between Germany and Russia. And this Russian scientist, Dmitry Vendev, I'm sorry, I don't speak Russian, he got in this air balloon and studied the solar eclipse soon after, a couple months or two after our experiment. And that was a big breakthrough for the scientific community. Yes, you mentioned Dr. Edward. Um, who else was involved in the project? Was it just Dr. Edward, or was it anybody else? Dr. Edward Morley was the only person involved in this experiment. He was a chemistry professor at Western Revere University. His university and my university shared a campus in Cleveland, and so it worked out for both of us to do the experiment at said campus. What was your role in the project, in this experiment project? Edward and I did everything, calculations, the prep work. We did it all. It was just us two. What impact did your project have in the physics community? Well, not only did it conclude that there was no ether wind, but also it found that there was no ether at all. And this fundamentally changed everything about the way we understood light. Uh, ether was the running theory, and that was just blown out of the water. And so we had to come up with a more accurate theory that represents light. And so it later it encouraged Dr. Albert Einstein to come up with this theory of relativity. So it fundamentally changed the entire way we view light and the way we understand the universe. So it had a big impact on the physics community. Thank you, Dr. Mitchelson. I want to leave you with I want to ask you one last question before this interview is over. So not only did this experiment take about 3 months to perform, it also took a lot of preparation. It took time, money, and energy out of both you and Dr. Edward. I can't even imagine the stress that came with this whole experiment. And I don't mean to sound rude. It didn't really prove anything. It disproved a theory that was thought to be true. It's I guess a way to say it to the average person. It's like saying, like, you guys prove that red isn't red, you know. Um, and so this was such a big deal. I want to ask, was it worth it? You're right. Yes, there was stress. Yes, it did cost a lot of money. Yes, it took so much time. But that's the cost of science. Science demands answers, and those answers have a cost. There's more than money. But just like the cost, those answers' value is more than money. Yes, it was worth it to do this experiment. It changed the way we perceived light, and it gave us knowledge that couldn't have been found if it wasn't for us and all that work. So yes, it was definitely worth it. All right, thank you. And that concludes our interview. You have a good one.